If you're waiting for the housing market to break, congratulations. It just broke. I put buying is over on the thumbnail specifically because, and it's not clickbait, because the mechanism that allows the market to function has officially frozen, completely frozen over, and the housing market is definitely broken. Since summer, since summer of 2025, we've lost approximately 270,000 active listings on the market. They've been wiped off the map. Now, mainstream headlines will tell you just relax, housing nerd. It's winter and inventory always drops. It's seasonality. People on this stream will probably tell you it's seasonality, but stop right there because that is the lazy take. You have to remember, we're coming off of historically low levels of inventory. We're already scraping the bottom of the barrel. So logic, simple logic, dictates that from these extreme low levels, listings should have exploded. They should have exploded way past last year's numbers. Everyone expected new listings and inventory to absolutely explode in 2025 all the way through, definitely right now in 2026. But that didn't happen. It went the opposite direction. And one of the reasons why it went the opposite direction are the new listings. So the new listings are actually down 8% year over year. 8%, meaning you have 8% fewer people putting their homes on the market right now than we did in early January of 2025. Let that sink in. This runs completely counterintuitive to every prediction you've probably seen out there. We are seeing less distress than last year, not more, less distress. Because when you're in distress, folks, and you're a homeowner, you have to list your house for sale at some point because of taxes, insurance, student loans, AI bubble, black swans, white swans, whatever you want to call it. You got to put your home on the market if you can't afford to keep it. And so we're seeing less distress, not more. So homeowners are not panic selling. They're on strike. And that's because they refuse to sell. The inventory that you're waiting for is simply not there. And that's why, for many of you, buying is officially over. Buying is over. Now, if you need proof of this, check this out. You need proof of my theory, check this out. Pending sales, the number of houses going into contract, is also down a ton, down nearly 7%. Down nearly 7%. So demand is down 7%. At the same time, new listings are down 8%. And the reason why, one of the big reasons why pending sales are so bad right now is because there's not a lot to choose from on the market. There's just not. We barely have over 1 million listings right now on the market. Barely have over 1 million listings. I'll go back to the active listings right here. 1,017,063 homes. This is as of the 4th of January. So it's pretty up to date. And that's only up 2.28% compared to the beginning of January 2025. And so that tells me that sellers and buyers are checked out of the market. And it's kind of a doom loop, really, because you've got sellers that are like, I'm not going to list my home right now. There's not a lot of demand. And you got buyers going, there ain't nothing to buy. So like, and everything that I do want is probably really expensive and rates are relatively higher. So, along with property taxes and insurance, doesn't make a lot of sense. But this is a national look. This is all national, not local, right? So I'm looking national data right now from Redfin, but you should drop your zip code in this chat and I will analyze your local market. So I can go down to a zip code level look and I can look at inventory. I can look at the trends. I can tell you about price trends, buying demand, price cuts, all kinds of things. So we can really dive into your local zip code. Please put that in the chat. And welcome to the weekly Housing Nerd Redfin update. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am a realtor. I'm an investor in Central Ohio. And this is your time to learn about the housing market. If you came to find out what's really happening in the housing market, no hype, just data. I'm going to show you raw data and you can request different markets and we're going to travel all around the US and take a look at specific markets and we're going to find out what's really happening. I'm not a crash bro and I'm certainly not a cheerleader. I'm just going to give you the information and let you make your own decision. That's how it should be. I'm not going to tell you the market's really toxic. Stay away. And I'm not going to tell you real estate always goes up. Buy, buy, buy. Not going to tell you that either. We're here to learn about the housing market from a real data standpoint. That's what my channel is about. So great to see you guys. Happy New Year. Hit the like button for me if you come into this, because as you hit the like button, more people will join. More people will join the chat. You know, and the other thing out there that's sitting, the other elephant in the room, or the elephant in the room that we should probably talk about is the tweet from Trump, right? So we will get to this. I'll get to this probably after I do the national update. So the way this works is national update first, then I'll dive into the comments, banter with you guys for a few minutes. Then we'll jump into the zip codes. Sometime in there, depending on how this goes, I will bring up this article from Trump. If I forget, remind me. I'm sure you guys have some, some takes on this. I certainly want to hear what you have to say about this, big news story from the Twitter master. All right. So let's start with this national update on the housing market. I'm just going to shrink this a little bit and we're going to go through all the different aspects of what's really happening right now. So first, let's look at new listings again. So this is the new listings. This is from Redfin. This is free. The link will be in my description once I'm done with the live. But you can see right now we had 42,136 new listings hit the market. And that's not a lot. So that's down 8%, meaning, again, fewer people putting their homes on the market. It's crazy. Now, when you think about the 270,000 number in my title of my video, that's not clickbait either, because if I go to active inventory and I look, we've got about 1,017,000 homes on the market right now, barely over a million. And that's only up 2.28%. Now, if I go back to last year, look at last year, in the middle of the year, summer, we had 1.289 million. That's kind of where it peaked as far as how many homes were on the market. So at that point, we were actually up 17% year over year, or nearly 18%. So we had a lot, we had a nice trajectory of growth, but the inventory growth stalled at the end of last year. And then it fell out of seasonality. I mean, the inventory just collapsed. And again, a lot of people are going to say, that's seasonality, nerd. Like, what are you talking about? Well, that's true. Every winter, active inventory goes down. But again, if you come back to this new listing stat, it's crazy that there are fewer people listing their home right now versus last winter. Nuts. All right, now here's pending sales. Pending sales down 7%. So nobody's buying, nobody's selling. But what's crazy, and this is something you have to pay attention to. Look at this 49,283 number, meaning we actually put 49,000, nearly 50,000 homes nationally in contract in the last week. New listings were 42,000. Uh-oh. What does that tell you? Tells you we are actually putting more homes in contract than we're putting on the market. That drives inventory down, not up. It was for a long time in 2025. It was the opposite. We were adding a lot more inventory than we were taking away. But now, inventory, it's actually the supply demand equilibrium has switched. You're not going to hear that from many people. You're not going to hear that. So let's look now at median sale price. How's that doing? So median sale price to start off the year up, barely up. Look at this, 0.01% up. I mean, they round it to 1%. But I guess my rounding maybe not be great. Maybe it's not great, but I think they should round that down to 0%, shouldn't they? Anyway, it's barely up, basically flat. So median sale price, which is not the best way to measure pricing, but it is what Redfin does. It's the house in the middle. So if you have 10 houses that sell, it's the fifth one. How much is that one? And so that is $382,000 for the median price home in the U.S. And that's basically flat. So it's not exploded. It's not crashing. It's kind of just meandering along, right? Kind of boring. But last year, we did not see a year-over-year decline in prices. The year before that, we did not see a year-over-year decline in prices. Prices have been higher for longer. Now, let's look at let's look at median days on market. So median days on market tells us how long homes are sitting on the market, if they're sitting a long time or they're moving quick. And median days on market right now is 57 days, nearly 58 days. That's up 6.5 days. So that means, hey, homes are definitely taking longer to sell because the homes that are on the market, a lot of them are either overpriced, and you guys know this, overpriced, or they're like beat up, right? Just not a lot of great inventory out there. All right, now let's look at weeks of supply. So weeks of supply basically tells us how much supply is left in the market if we stopped adding any listings at all. And right now it's 18 weeks. So that's about 4 months of supply, approximately 4 months of supply. And that's the highest it's been. Whoops, I'm sorry. Look at the wrong number. Back here. So it's 19 months of supply, 19 weeks of supply. So almost 5 months of supply. And that's a good number. The weird part is that it's just not probably the right homes, right? Probably not the right homes on the market. That's what that means. That's what that means. Okay. So that's kind of the national look as far as what's going on. But let me now go to this. Let me go to the article from Redfin because they give us some flavor as to what some of this means. And then I'll go ahead and cover this. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate right now is about 6.19%. So it really kind of stuck. It's been in like the 6.19, 6.2. What is it right now? Let's look at today. What is it? Yeah, 6.19% right now. So it's just kind of stuck in this low sixes. Will it get below 6%? I don't know. It could. But a lot of analysts don't think it will in 2026. But it is the lowest level in 2 months. Mortgage purchase applications is a good thing to look at. That tells us, hey, how much demand is out there? Like how much demand's on the sidelines waiting to purchase. Well, purchase applications are actually down 6% from 2 weeks earlier. They're up 10% year over year. Kind of strange, right? Up 10% in mortgage purchase applications, but pending sales are down. How is that possible? Well, my theory is, and tell me what you think, but my theory is that there's a lot of sellers out there that are trying to sell their home and buy something else. And they're either running into issues selling their house or they're running into issues finding another house. Because of that, they may apply for a mortgage, but they're not actually pulling the trigger because they can't find anything to actually jump on. or nobody's buying their current home. That's what I think is going on. So there is demand on the sidelines. We just don't have the right inventory mix and probably not the right conditions with prices and rates to make people jump. Okay, so now let's look at this. I thought this was really interesting. Well, this is that stat I just read a couple minutes ago. Pending sales up. I'm sorry. We added 49,000 homes in contract. So we put, I'll say that again. We put 49,000 homes in contract over the last week, but we only added 42,000 listings. That's not good. That's not good at all. It means that obviously we have more demand right now than supply that's being added, which is nuts, but that's the truth. Now let's look at this. I thought this was crazy. The metros with the biggest year-over-year price decline. Who are the winners? Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Well, there's 19 metros out of the top 50. That's how they do this. They look at the top 50 metros that are down year-over-year in prices. 19. That's one of the higher numbers I've seen. Like I think last time I did an update, it was like 13 or 14 metros out of the top 50. The point is there's more metros now with year-over-year price decline versus what we've seen in the recent history. There are markets where prices are still going up, despite what you may hear from, other folks out there. Maybe they're not pulling the data. They're probably just telling you a narrative, but I'm showing you the information. Detroit, prices are up 10, nearly 11%. Cincinnati, the nasty natty, up 8% in prices. Chicago up 6%. And you got Montgomery County, PA, which is like the Philly area, and Newark, New Jersey, up 5.6%. Then you got Dallas, Oakland, San Jose, Jacksonville, and Sacramento take the top spots where prices are falling the fastest or the most. Now, here is what is crazy. Pending sales are up only in 9 of the top 50 metros. So again, demand is not crazy. It's not, it's not elevated by any means, but it's outstripped the supply end of things now. Because look at this. New listings only increased in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. 4. Only increased in 4 metros out of the top 50. As a housing nerd, I look at that and go, wow, that's a crazy stat. Like, it tells me there's 46 metros out of the top 50 where new listings are lower than they were this time last year. Folks, you can hear as much as you want to hear about black swans, sellers in distress, rage delistings, generational silver tsunami doom, FHA collapse, AI bubble, job loss, auto loans, private credit. Oh, what else is out there? I don't know. There's institutional bans on investors, Airbnb collapse. I don't know. You can think about all those different scenarios, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. The majority of metros have fewer people listing their homes for sale. That's not a sign of distress. Not a sign of distress. And take a look at this. This will blow your mind as well. Jacksonville, Florida. Complete crash, right? In prices with an explosion of inventory in 2025. No doubt about it. But now look what happened. There are 23% fewer people listing their home. 23%. That's a quarter. So if you had 100 people putting their home on the market last year, now only you'll have 75. What? That's true. Tampa Bay, another big problem city, right? Somebody forgot to tell the distress there, though. Tampa Bay down in new listings 21%. Oakland, California, another big crash city, right? Oakland down 21% in new listings. Dallas, what? Down 21%. San Antonio down 20%. Folks, some of these Florida cities, I've looked at this data all morning. Some of these Florida cities have fewer active listings than they did last year, not more. Fewer homes on the market. Believe that. Fewer homes on the market. It's startling. Startling. The housing market's just locked up. Anyway, that's what's happening nationally. I'm going to get to the comments, then we're going to dive into your metro level request. And if you want me to, ask in the chat and I'll cover the Trump thing too. But I don't want to give it more run than it needs. Okay, so let's do some check-ins on your comments. Kelly, what up? How are you? Well, the doggy dog. You are the first nerd. I think you beat John. What up? What up, John? Damn it. Second nerd, thumbs up. And Portage County. Also, did you finally catch up on Somali daycare scam story that was the butt of all the jokes on your national show the other day? No, I don't understand what that means. I have no idea. I don't understand. I'm completely lost there. You have to fill me in. Good morning from Quintero, Mexico. Quintero, Mexico. Oh, weren't you in Guatemala before? Wow, you're traveling all over the place. But thanks for joining. I bet it's warm there. It's kind of warm here. It's like the mid 50s. I'm going snowboarding this weekend. It's just going to be rainy and slushy. Slush is not fun. No crash. Right. Not right now. Not in prices, but in supply. I mean, I'm shocked. Like my forecast for 2026 is, hey, we're going to probably grow 10, 15% in inventory. That's where I think we're going to be. You know, not 30 or 50% in inventory increase, but I think we will add some. But now I'm worried. I'm like, man, some sellers got to get active here. Let's stick to housing, dude. Thanks. Yep. Okay. Learn a lot from these live streams. Thanks, nerd. Like 3. Hey, I appreciate you joining. I'm glad I can help. Evo Overlord, Portage County, Ohio. Sorry. Okay. Yep. Oh, you're talking about that daycare thing. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Over my head, below my knees. Still seems to be a decent amount in Fort Wayne for what I get to that, for when I get to that next month. Oh, yeah, in Fort Wayne. Yeah, we'll take a look at Fort Wayne. Hell yeah. America. Yep, we'll do that one. Wow. Moses Mooney, how are you? Georgia 30540. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name of that city. I have a theory that student loan and other aggressive credit collection is going to cull the number of current buyers. It could. Yeah, it could. But, you know, yeah, I guess we'll have to see, right? I mean, right now, like we really don't need more buyers in a weird way. Like we really don't. Like if we had an explosion of buyers right now, it would be bad for the housing market. Like we would see, like we only have 1 million listings. Sounds like a lot, but you got to remember in 2000, to go all the way back to the year 2000, we had like 2.3 million listings. We had double the number of homes on the market in the year 2000. In the year 2005, we had like 3.3 million. And then at the height of the GFC, the height of the biggest, when right before prices crashed, we had 4 million homes on the market. And then prices crashed right around that time. So we're way undersupplied still. Way undersupplied. And remember, houses that exist that are vacant, that does not mean they're available. Vacant does not mean for sale. So if there's a bunch of vacant homes out there, or boomer second homes, or people that say, hey, we don't need any more supply. We have a lot of supply, because I've been on the road and I've driven past housing developments. Congratulations, you found homes. Are they available to buy? No. Well, then it doesn't really matter. And people don't hide their listings either. I'm not saying you're saying this, Kelly, but people do not hide their listings if they need to sell. If they just want to sell and they're putting their toe in the water, kicking the tire, testing the water, they're certainly going to maybe test the market. But if they really need to sell, they're going to put their house on the MLS, because that's where everybody, Zillow picks it up, Realtor.com picks it up, Trulia picks it up. Anybody go to Trulia anymore? Redfin, this is how it is. Good afternoon, Steve. Good afternoon to you too. What's up, mortgage nerd? You're the same guy, aren't you? Oh, you're like on Facebook and you're on, and you got a cool dog there. Is that a Cocker Spaniel? Looks what it looks like. And you're on this YouTube channel. Thanks. Good morning. No PSI. Is that a turbo thing? Guatemala, then Phoenix for family. Now back to normal life. Cool. Cool. Bet you're having fun out there. Hi, housing nerd. What do you think of the Cincinnati, Ohio, Northern Kentucky area? These are the zip codes I was looking at. Okay, I'll get to those. I've seen conflicting data for Toledo, Ohio. Some say prices are up and going up over 12%. Others say prices are down 2%. Okay, let's look at Toledo. What are your thoughts on the Pacific Northwest, specifically Bonner counties and Kutiana? Kutina. I don't know. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, I'll take a look at those. I don't know where. Uh, I used to live out in Tacoma. Those don't ring a bell, but we'll look at it in Idaho. All right. I'll look at that one. No Portage County, Ohio for the lookup, not Minnesota Somali daycare scandal. No Portage County for the lookup. No, you don't want it? Okay. What else you got? John Comiskey said he has a person working in FHA that expect about a 50% of serious delinquent mortgages come in March, April. So the people waiting to list their house in the spring are in for a shock. Yeah, so let's look at that. This is something I tried to convey this on my live earlier this week. Maybe it didn't come through all the way, but the problem with FHA is that when I had John on my channel and interviewed him, it was a great interview. I was shocked that it was only 250,000 people right now that are kind of in the backlog of FHA delinquency that could flow through to maybe foreclosure. 250,000. Now, if all those flow through, is that a lot? When we only have a million listings, it's not a ton. And it's not going to happen all at once, right? It's not going to happen all in 1 month. So even if we got another 50,000 in 1 month, I don't think it would be a catastrophe. It'd probably help our housing market. Certainly, gives people some more stuff to buy. But the other thing about FHA is it's only 12% of the market. He confirmed that on my channel. So when you think about it, it's like if there's massive distress in FHA, right? And which I'm not going to deny, there was a lot of distress in FHA. If that completely falls apart, but it's only 12% of the total mortgage market, then it's like, it can get really bad. But if it's one bad part that's only a fraction of the larger part overall, then it's like, you know what I mean? I don't know that it's the black swan that people maybe think it is. Now, the headlines aren't going to tell you that. The headlines are going to say FHA is doomed. We are going to have a housing market crash. But when you look at the raw data, you can see the FHA just doesn't make up a big portion of mortgages. It just doesn't. It doesn't. Now, that could, you could see more distress in other areas like the conventional loans. You could see that. We're not right now seeing elevated serious delinquency, but that could happen. That could certainly happen in the future. The difference is back during the great financial crisis, the subprime market, along with FHA and the adjustable rate mortgage market, was a massive, that was a big part of the total mortgage market. Memory serves me, it was probably like 25 to 30%. So the subprime market was a much bigger portion of the overall housing market compared to FHA now. And probably the biggest difference is that the government now and the taxpayer, you, Ches, and me, and everybody on this stream, everybody listening, you have all already stepped in to bail out the FHA market or any mortgage market really that's backed by the US government, which is like 85% of all mortgages. And so even the DSCR part is a very small part of the total mortgage market. The majority is conventional. 85% of all mortgages are backed by the US government already. So if things got really, 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 really bad, they're already in place to bail it out. We know how that goes, right? So extend and pretend, right? Now, that may not, who knows? Maybe they let it crash. They should. They should probably just let it crash, but I doubt they will. But yeah, John is great. His Substack is amazing. You want some detailed info? His stuff will make your head spin. Oh, what's up? It's Coot Tini. Okay, Coot Tini. Got it. Thanks. Batman, what up? 89521. We'll do that one. You got it. Hey, you're welcome. All right, let's get to these zip codes. Let's get to now. So uh, I'm going to use Zillow data now, though, because of zip. Because we want to look at zip codes, right? If we look at Redfin, they're only going to give us the counties and the metros. So we're going to use the Resi Club terminal instead. And let me make sure it's lined up here. Yeah. All right. So we're going to use this much more detailed. This is data through the end of November, though. That's how they're doing this. So this is the prices, I believe. Yeah, through the end of November. I'll have the December data loaded in soon, but this will still give us a good check as to what's happening, even though it's not the weekly data from Redfin. Not that anybody cares about all that detail, but that's how it's. I want to be transparent. So let's look at the first one. Who was it? Who was the first one? Portage County, Ohio. I don't know if you still want to review that or not, but I'm going to do it because I'm nice. All right. So prices in Portage County, Ohio, up 5%, 4.6% year over year. Haven't seen prices crash there at all. They're not coming down. Um, and remember, this pricing, by the way, is this is using the 35th through 65th percentile. So it's using the middle range of houses. So it takes out all the expensive homes. I have a lot of people say, oh, the expensive homes are skewing everything. No, no, no. This takes that out and it takes out all the lower priced homes. That's how Zillow does it. So price is still up nearly 5% year over year. It's crazy. Ohio's just wrecked. It's really, really, really bad here regarding prices just keep going. Inventory, you've got 13% more homes on the market than you did last year. That's good. Active inventory, you've got 44% fewer homes on the market versus 2019. That's not good. You want to see more homes than 2019, but you don't have that. So we can't cry over something we don't have. And you've got 213 homes on the market total in the whole county. If you go back to the 2019, you had 382 homes on the market. What all this means is it doesn't look like prices are going to meaningfully fall there because the inventory is still low based on historical trends. It just is what it is. You're going to be shocked today if you're watching this, wondering what's happening in the overall housing market in the US. You're going to be shocked as we go through some of these areas as to what's really happening, right? So we looked at the national stuff at the beginning, now specific markets. All right. So that was Portage County. Portage County, Ohio, OHIO. They had a rough time against Miami. All right. Still seems to be a decent amount in Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne's next. Let's do Fort Wayne, Indiana. So this is a city look, not a zip code level look. But nonetheless, prices in Fort Wayne, Indiana up 2.7% right now. So not exploding, right? We're not seeing what we saw. Look at this, like back in 2021. You had an 18% increase, 18% increase in home prices year over year. That's not good. I mean, it's good for your seller. But if you're trying to buy something, that was insane, right? So now we're not seeing that. It's all the way back down to 2.7, which is kind of normal, 2-3% growth in Fort Wayne. Let's look at, let me look at the typical value of a house. Typical value of a single family house in Fort Wayne, Indiana. 246,581. Remember, that's the 35th through 65th percentile. It's that middle range of homes, not the median. They're just taking out the most expensive and the least expensive. But $246,000, that is an all-time high. So right now, you're at an all-time high price in Fort Wayne, Indiana, overall for the metro. Obviously, it's going to be different on the street or subdivision. That's what's happening in Fort Wayne. Inventory, year over year, you're up 23%. So you got more homes on the market. I mean, think about this. You've got 23% more homes on the market right now in Fort Wayne. But nationally, according to the latest Redfin data, We only have 2.3, call it 2% more homes on the market. So real estate is definitely hyper local. Look at active inventory versus 2019, up 20%. So one would think price growth will probably normalize. It looks like it is because you actually have more homes on the market now than you did in 2019. Versus we just looked at Portage County, Ohio, where they had 43% fewer homes on the market than 2019. And we're using 2019, folks, because that's right before COVID. And when COVID hit, inventory vanished. Like you can see it right here. This is all COVID through here, right? These are the active units on the market right now. So you had 425 homes on the market back in 2020. That's it. Now you've got 1,107. Much better. You got to have that to have some selection so people can actually have choices on what they buy. Otherwise, pending sales stay very low. And then people don't list their house either because there's nothing to buy when they do sell their house. 80 to 85% of all sellers are buyers. So when somebody lists their house, typically they're going to move into another one. If there's nothing to move into, they're like, I can't sell. There's no point. Or if it's too expensive to move, right? They're trading their rate for a higher rate. Anyway, that's what's happening in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm curious though. Let's look at, I didn't do this in Portage County, but let's look at, I'm just going to look at price cuts. Yeah, there we go. Price reduction share, 26%, nearly 27. So 27% of all sellers have cut their asking price in Fort Wayne. You definitely have some price cuts there. What about days on market? I wonder what that's doing. Median days on market, 52 days. Last year was 46. So it's taking about 6 days longer to sell a home right now in Fort Wayne. And if I go back in time, that's one of the higher days on market. I mean, during COVID, look at that. Days on market was 27 days. Pretty fast. But now 52 days. So it's kind of getting back to a normal market maybe in Fort Wayne. It's just taking a while. I would look for prices to keep moderating. You could even see a price decline this year overall in Fort Wayne. Again, I don't know specifically what you're looking for, but that's what I'm seeing. So great to check in on Fort Wayne. There's another guy who hangs out on YouTube. What's his name? He's on a lot of channels. I always see him. All Nighter Hider. I always see him like on Uneducated Economist. I see him on One Rental at a Time. I thought I used to see him on Real Estate Mindset. Anyway, I think he lives in Fort Wayne, if I'm remembering right. Anyway, we've talked about getting together because I'm in Ohio, but I think he's in Fort Wayne. All right. Hell yeah, America. What do you got? 54303. 54303. Where's that? Half of this fun is just looking at these different markets. Where is this? Oh, it's in Wisconsin, huh? That's cool. Near the lake. I used to spend a lot of time in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, central Wisconsin. All right. So home prices, what do we got going there? Wow. Look at that. Up 8% year over year. Goodness gracious. Wow. Yeah, your home prices are still elevated, like they're still rising. Typical value of a single family house, $236,033, all-time record high. In other words, homes have never been more expensive for the typical single family house value there. By the way, I have condo information now too. So if you want specific condo analysis, just let me know in the chat. And actually, let me check. Let me check this. I just want to make sure. Yeah. Yeah. So $236,000, all time record high. All right, now let's look at inventory. How's inventory doing? But you've got 68% more homes on the market right now. Well, as of the end of November, but I doubt it moved much. Active inventory versus 2019. So you're basically flat. I mean, you're down a smidge, down 2%, but basically flat compared to 2019. You must have added a lot of inventory recently. Yeah, you did. Look at that. You got 37 homes on the market. Is that a lot? Not compared to historical averages. 37 homes right now. If I go back to COVID, you only had 12, which is just nuts. Then you had 11 at the beginning, or in 2021, you only had 11 homes on the market in November. Now, and this is at the end of November is how they do that. Um, you had 36 homes back in 2020, but then in 2016 you had 105 homes. So you probably need to get back to that 105. But even that may not solve your price problem. I don't know what type of homes are out there for sale in that zip code. It's on the lake. I don't know. You have to tell me. So if you, by the way, if you're asking for a zip code, put in what you're trying to do. Like you're trying to buy, sell, invest. What type of home are you buying? That can kind of help as well. Yeah. So you're not, prices are still elevated. It looks like you do need more inventory. Price reductions. What do you got? 22% of all people have cut their asking price. So there are price cuts, but you've always had price cuts. You can see through history, you've always had price cuts. So it's not new. Price cuts aren't a new thing. Median days on market, 37 days. Last year was 37 days. Homes are sitting about as long as they did this time last year. So homes aren't like rotting on the market comparatively. And they're up about 10 days since COVID. You can see during COVID, when things were moving really fast, it was 27 days. So I would say you need more inventory, certainly. But prices there are continuing to go up. And as of the latest data we have, you're at an all-time record price in 54303 in Wisconsin. I bet it's pretty up there. All right. Let's do the next one. What we got? Let me just check. Hopefully that helped. If you have more questions about your zip code, obviously, feel free to ask. All right, what else I got here? Next one. Moses, how you doing? 30540 in Georgia. $30540. Prices down 1.4%. So just down a smidge. Maybe you call it flat. I mean, down 1% is not the end of the world. Being up 1% is not the end of the world either. But typically, homes appreciate 2-3% historically, taking out the COVID years nationally. So being down 1% isn't the end of the world, but it's not up at least, and that's good. And you've had very slow price growth over the past, 2 years. Look at this. Like in 2024, prices were only going, 3-4% there. The big growth, look at this, was back in 2021. I mean, in November of 2021, prices were up 33% year over year in that 1 month. That was obviously completely unhealthy. And that ended, right? COVID, I mean, literally, like as COVID ended, your price growth stopped. And now it's barely budged. And you can see historically, right? You've got 1.9, 6.5%, 5.7%. So maybe historically you were growing 6-7%. But then here's one of the weird things is price growth started accelerating before COVID, way before COVID. Let's look at your value. This is fascinating. At least it is to me. So you're not an all-time high, I don't think. I think your all-time high price was like right in here, 396,000, 397,000 back in 2022, August of 2022. Okay, here's 398. No, 389. So yeah, 397,000, 398,000 was like your all-time high. And then now you've kind of just gone sideways. Actually, your all-time high, sorry, was back here maybe in 2024, 405 grand last year or 2 years ago, right? And then now you're at 400,000. So bottom hasn't fallen out, but you're not at an all-time high. You're just kind of sideways for a while. In fact, if I pull this stat, this will really tell us. Uh, yeah. So since 2022, home prices where you are in Georgia, 30540, only up 0.7%. Meaning if you bought in 2023, 2024, 2025, on average, your house is barely up in value. And that can happen. And that's sometimes a normal market. I mean, it's not a normal market to have homes appreciate 50% in 1 year and people, flip their home without even flipping it, right? They move in, they don't do anything, then they just sell it. That's and for a profit. That's not normal unless you buy it really cheap. So, yeah, prices there have not moved a lot in the last couple of years. They're just kind of stagnant. Active inventory. Oops, I'm sorry. Yeah, active inventory versus last year, you're up 19% in active homes for sale. Since 2019, look at this, folks. Completely different market than what we looked at with Indiana and Ohio. You're up 80% versus 2019. 80%. You have 80% more homes than you had before COVID. Let's look at the count. That'll really show us. Look at that. 372 homes right now on the market. Last year, you had 313. During COVID, you had 89, 93 homes. Not a lot. But you have more homes now than you've had in the last decade. Look, go all the way back to 2016, you haven't had this many homes. So if you're a seller in that market, that type of environment, you guys know what to do, right? You got to price your home fairly. Don't overprice it. Don't get greedy. Probably make sure it's clean, it's picked up. Make sure, all the lights work, the basics. Like they don't cost any money to clean your house and make sure the lights work really, right? Clean up the outside. Don't have like junk in the yard. Don't have junk laying all over the place. And you can clean and you can do that all for free. So if you're a seller, make sure your house is clean, presented well, make sure you don't price it too high, and you should be good. If you are a buyer and you're in this type of market where you're seeing inventory explode like this, you got an opportunity maybe, right? You got a lot more homes than you've had in a long time for sale. Now, are they the right homes for you? I don't know. But overall, the inventory trend is in your favor. I would think buyers have more control in a market like this versus Portage County, Ohio, what we looked at earlier, or even Wisconsin that we just looked at. All right. Hope that helped. That's what's going on with, oh, you know what? Let me look at median. Did I look at this? Median days on market? No, median days on market, 78 days right now. Last year was 74. Homes are definitely taking longer. 78 days is a long time. So if you're a seller, expect your home to sit a while before you get offers. Even if it's priced right, it may sit a little while. Let's look at the last thing is price reductions. What are those doing? Huh? Look at that. Only 19% of all sellers have cut their price. So not a ton of price cuts actually. Every market's different, obviously. Okay. That was Georgia. I hope that helped. What do you think of Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky area? 41018. All right, let's do it. 41018. Sorry, my dog's in the background if you heard that. 41018. And that is, I always like to look, because that's like Northern Kentucky. You're right. That's like right on the border, like right across the river. You're right. Okay. Prices down 0.2%, basically flat in Kentucky. Since My dog's hacking up a lung. In 2022, or since 2022, your prices are up 11%. So different than Georgia, right? In Georgia, we just looked at that zip code there. Prices were basically flat since 2022. But in Kentucky, prices are actually up 11% since 2022. So you still have price growth over the last couple of years. Definitely a different market. Let's look at the typical value, see what that did. The typical value is not an all-time high, but you're at 223, I'm sorry, 230 grand. The all-time high was like right in here at 231 grand. Let's look at active inventory. You're up 20% year over year. Since 2019, you're still down 16%, but you're probably gaining a good amount. Well, you've got 30 homes listed as of the latest data at the end of November. You got 30 homes listed. I mean, it's just not a lot of inventory, right? I mean, back in 2016, in that zip code, you had 81 homes listed. So, you definitely need probably more homes on the market. Probably not a lot to choose from out there. Only 30 homes isn't a lot of choices. And that's for the whole zip code. But it could just be not a lot of population either. That's possible. And then you had one more. You had 45211. Is that Ohio? Let's look. 45211, which is, yeah, it's Ohio. It's probably just what? Yeah, basically right on the border. Right on the border. So prices there only up 0.4%, barely up at all, basically flat home prices year over year. So prices aren't exploding anymore, although they did back in COVID, right? We can see that they're up 21% year over year at one point, which is unsustainable. Typical single family value of houses, 200 grand, $198,000. That's not an all time high, but you're really close. You're basically just going sideways, right? That's really what we're seeing. Let me look at it since 2022. Since 2022, you're up 12%, though. So even though price growth has stalled over the last 12 months, you're not by any means crashing, right? You're still maintaining, and you are up 12%, 12% since 2022. Now let's look at inventory. Active inventory down 30% in that zip code. So you've got 30% fewer homes for sale right now versus last year. Active inventory versus 2019, you're up 4%. So you do have more homes than pre-pandemic. Not a lot of places in Ohio have that. So that's good. But active inventory from a count standpoint, 51 homes. Only got 51 homes on the market. But during COVID, you had 30 homes on the market. In 2016, though, you had 151 homes on the market. Remember, we looked at that zip code in Georgia where prices were down slightly, and they had more homes than they had had on the market in the last 10 years. They had a decade high of homes of inventory. With you only have 51. The decade high was 151. So it's like still need more more active inventory, I think, in both zip codes probably. But prices aren't exploding in either one yet, or right now they're not. So I would say that, from that standpoint, it's like you could be a lot more patient, maybe, right? You don't have to worry if home prices are going to keep going up at a rapid rate. Maybe be more patient and make some low offers and really, pick the houses apart. You go see a house two and three times versus having to worry that it's going to fly off the shelf immediately. That was a horrible time when that happened. It was very stressful for me as an agent, certainly stressful for buyers and sellers, even. All right, let's do the next one. What do we got? That was conflicting data for Toledo. By the way, I'm sure you all know this by now, but I have an Ohio only channel. I do for the Ohio people out there. So here's my Ohio channel, right? Anyway, I do Ohio stuff all the time. So that's just dedicated to Ohio, but I don't mind at all doing this for Ohio today. Let's do, you say Toledo. Did you give me a zip code? Did you give me a zip code? No, that's okay. I'll just do Toledo. By the way, if you're joining us, do me a favor, hit the like button. Don't be a freeloader. That's all I ask. Home prices in Toledo, Ohio, up 3%. I mean, you said 12? Somebody said 12%? I don't know. Right now, I mean, this is at the end of November. So, maybe the next data set shows something different. But right now, prices, price growth looks like it's slowing, but you still do have price growth. So this is showing 3%, not 12. Typical value, 193,420. And that is an all-time high, right? Yeah. So right now, basically you have an all-time high record home price for the typical value in Toledo. I keep seeing article after article about Toledo saying that it's one of the best housing markets in the US. Probably because homes are only 193 grand on average, right? Maybe that's why. Um, you know, it's I think a lot of investors like it. I don't own anything up there. I've looked at a lot of deals in Toledo though, and nothing ever penciled out. But yeah, it's shoot, your prices are just continuing to go up. Active inventory. How many homes do you have on the market? Oh, you know what? I forgot to look at this. How have you done since 2022 in Toledo? Up 15%. So you continue to grow even after 2022. The reason why they have 2022 is like I don't know, a demarcation line in this data is because a lot of markets actually peaked in 2022. A lot did. A lot of COVID boom towns like Austin and Boise and Denver. A lot of them peaked in 2022, but for the Northwest and the Midwest, they just kept going. I'm sorry, Northeast and Midwest. Active inventory, 42% more homes than last year on the market. That's great. Need that in Ohio, need that in Toledo. You're still down 25% versus pre-COVID. Still 25% fewer homes. Active inventory count, 1,200. So you are making progress. I mean, the trend is clear to see that you are continuing to put more homes on the market. That's good. Got to have that inventory. I mean, basically, inventory is talking. It's not whispering anymore. You continuing to add more homes. 834 homes on the market back in 2021. Your peak was in 2016. You had 2,252 homes on the market. And look at this. I see this trend all the time. And I haven't heard anybody else mention this on YouTube. The trend for inventory in Toledo and many areas of the US and even US nationally has been that its inventory has been going down since like 2016, 2015. So inventory spiked during the great financial crisis, like it peaked in like 2000 and what, 2006 and 7, it peaked, and that's when prices fell, right? And then inventory eventually was sold off, and you can see how it was sold off. I mean, it just continued to drop the number of homes on the market. And then COVID hit, and it made it a lot worse. So you're coming out of that now. You're adding more inventory. Got to have that. Let's look at price reductions. 17% of all people have cut their asking price. That's not a ton. That's about normal. Ohio's overall is like at 21%. So I think the country's at like 22 nationally. So that's not an extreme amount. And prices are continuing to go up there. So I would think it's still probably relatively seller's market as long as you probably price the home fairly. That's Toledo. That was Toledo, Ohio. All right. What's next? What are your thoughts on the Pacific Northwest? Let's do these counties. Did I spell that right? Hmm. It's not letting me have that. Oh, this is Idaho, right? Is that what you're saying? I thought it was, for some reason, I had in my head Washington, but you didn't say that. You said Pacific Northwest. So that's Idaho. Cool. Let me just zoom out here to see where we are. Oh, you're right near Spokane, huh? Right on the border. Yeah, let's see what's happening here. I'm really curious. Home prices up 1.6%. 1.6%. Let me go back to, let me just look at this. Mm, mm. I'm just looking how to say it. It's Kutini. Kutini. Okay, got it. I just wanted that. Kutini. So home prices back during 2021 were growing at 40% year over year. That's definitely not normal, right? I mean, that is crazy. Like, you look at that growth there and how prices were just skyrocketing when COVID hit. And now, completely different. I mean, all you got to do is look at that drop in home price growth. Now you're at 1.6%. You've been down a little bit over the last couple years. So if I check our 20 against 2022, I wonder what we find. Yeah, you're down 1.3%. So like you had all the growth, all your price growth came really in like what, 2.5 years. Like during this period right through here is when all your price growth happened and then the spigot was turned off. Let's look at the typical value. Typical value $581,000. That's an expensive area. Pacific Northwest is expensive, period. What else do we have here? Got it looks like it did a peak about 587. Yeah. Yeah, about 587. So it's barely budged. I mean, really just sideways the last couple years. Active inventory. How many homes are on the market right now for sale? Down 1.1% year over year. Oh, look at this. Barely had any inventory growth. All that inventory growth you really had was like in late 2023 when a lot of homes were being listed. You've got 9% more homes than 2019. And then if I look at active inventory, you got 840 homes. Last year you had 849. Yeah. Okay. So what's going on in that county is that it looks like inventory plummeted. You can see back in 2016, you had 1,300 listings, 1,300 active homes. And then just like that last market we looked at, um, you're seeing, you saw inventory fall, right? Before COVID, it definitely fell. I guess it was getting popular to live there. And then in 2020, there was nothing on the market, 245 homes. And then you started adding inventory and you added it quick. Look at this. You went from like 341 listings to 807 in 1 year. So it looks like, you have to tell me because you know the area better than I do. In 2022, it looks like everyone threw their house on the market. Probably right when interest rates spiked. People got nervous and they put their house on the market. It happened in a lot of areas through the US. And when that happened, the inventory never left. It just stayed the same, it looks like. And prices stayed the same. Like you don't have a lot of price growth either. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect prices to crash there, and I certainly wouldn't expect them to explode, but there may not be a great deal out there either on paper. You may have to negotiate and hunt really hard. Price reduction. How many people are cutting their price? Only 13%. See, like it's not like it's 25%. It's only 13% of all sellers are cutting their price. What about median days on market? How's that? Median days on market 73. Last year was 71. During COVID, it got down to 37. So homes are selling about the same amount of time as they did last year and the year before. That's a really stuck market. Looks like things just aren't moving overall. Is that more of a vacation spot? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that exact market, but it looks like it's expensive and it doesn't look like that's going to change materially anytime soon. That's what the data's telling me. All right. Let me did this one. Pacific. Oh, you know what? Yes, for one more. Bonner counties. Bonner. Bonner County, Idaho. Oh, you're near like Glacier Park, right? Like that area of because the Montana's right here, right? Bonner County. What's up there? Yeah, same thing. Price growth is nil, right? No price growth really over the last few years. You had some price decline though in early 2023. So let's look at the single family value. Single family value, 633 grand. Wow, it's expensive there. It peaked at like 670, 680. So you are down from the peak. Let's find out how much. You're down 6% since the peak. So anybody who purchased basically over the last couple years hasn't really seen their homes appreciate, right? Since 2022, hasn't really appreciated. And if you bought in 2022, your home price is actually down 6% on average. Obviously, this is just looking at the county. Oh yeah, we looked at this. Yeah, 633 grand right now. All right, active inventory. You are up 6% versus last year. And if I go back before COVID, you were actually up 30%. So you got a lot more homes than before COVID. Active inventory count, 471. Not a decade high, but a lot better than you had in November of 2020. You only had 148 homes on the market. But again, just like that other county we looked at, Coutini, you're actually you grew a lot in inventory quickly from 2021. You can see that inventories just spike right in 2022. And then you could see what happened when you added a lot of inventory. Home price growth stopped. And that, folks, is a great example of what happens when you add a lot of inventory quickly. And that's what we need for a price crash anywhere, even nationally. You got to have a lot more homes added in a very short period of time. And that will cause a price collapse or a change in the trajectory of prices. Okay. That's Bonner County, Idaho. So we did Idaho. Cool. Thanks for asking for that. Batman 89521. 89521. Nevada. Where in Nevada is that? 521. I'm just curious. 89521. Oh, it's Reno. Yeah. Okay. Reno, Nevada. 89521. Home prices in Reno, Nevada in 89521 up 0.6%. That's it. Barely up. And you can see growth has definitely slowed. Although in 2024, you had 4% growth in home prices. It's not like it was during COVID at 28% growth during COVID. That's not sustainable. But this is a something we continue to see here is insane price growth during COVID and then slowing. Since 2022, homes are down 4.7% there, basically 5%. So, yeah, having grown home prices since 2022. Typical value. Wow, they're expensive there. 700 grand, $696,000 is your typical value. Now, the all-time high was like right here, $717,000. No, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. 730, 730 grand. Jeez. That was in 2021 though, not now. Now you're at 696. So homes, they've with the average typical values fallen what 20, 30,000 bucks. Inventory year over year up 13% versus last year. Active inventory versus 2019 is only up 1%. So you're basically flat versus pre-COVID. If I look at the inventory count, you have 152 homes on the market, much better than COVID when you only had 59 homes on the market. And it's approaching, like, I think your all-time high for the last decade was 198 homes on the market back in 2018. So you are adding homes. Inventory is good. You can see that in the prices, right? And just like that other market we looked at in Idaho, those two markets, 81 homes you had in 2021, but then it spiked rapidly when they raised interest rates in 2022. That's just, you can see it in the data, right? Everybody threw their homes on the market and prices, you can see what happened to them. In fact, I wonder if they have the data going back. They do. So I don't have inventory going back to the great financial crisis. That inventory data is elusive, hard to find. But this is like that crash of prices, right after inventory spiked in 2007 or so. So in 2007, approximately 2008 is when, maybe a little earlier, we peaked nationally with inventory in Reno. The Reno area got destroyed because of all the new construction, right? And then you can see what happened to prices. I just want to show you that because if you look at this dip here, it's pretty much identical from a trend standpoint. A lot more homes added, prices dipped. Now, it wasn't 4 times as many homes as typically listed, so it wasn't a massive crash, but you did have a price, a pretty big price decline as you went through 2022. That's Reno. That's what's happening in Reno, Nevada. What's next? Any other ones? Sure I do. Oh, I got some more. What's up, Yvonne? 43081. All right, I'll look at that one. I got to this late. If you have the ability to buy, would you recommend buying? Oof. But I mean, thanks for the question. It's really based on your own personal situation. I can't tell you if you should buy or not. But you have to be. There's a lot of factors involved. So probably the biggest thing is, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? How knowledgeable are you in the market? How financially prepared are you? There's a lot of questions to go through. So I would seek out. Right now, one of the best resources could be to go to Real Estate Mindset and take a look at his Home Buyer 101 course. I'm actually developing a course right now for the Housing Nerd channel, but Travis at Real Estate Mindset has a course, and it's pretty good actually. It's I've taken it and it's actually pretty informative. So it's free too. So if you go to his channel, you can find the links to go to his course and sign up, and he takes you through a Home Buyer 101. So it could be a place to start because that can kind of answer that question for you because it's all individual. All right. Deathball 9987, Queens, New York. You got it. I'll put that one on the list. Now, of course, Gladwin, Michigan. Obviously, John. I'll take a look at that one. Didn't overpay and have done repairs and improvements. Good. You want to sell. All right. Well, maybe you should sell. But I always recommend keeping your real estate. Okay. Yeah, I looked at I looked at that county for you. All right. Oh, and Tati, you're buying in 30809. Okay, I'll take a look at that area for you. But yeah, check out Real Estate Mindsets YouTube channel. He doesn't do a whole lot with real estate anymore on his channel. He seems to be like diverted into more property taxes and silver, but eventually he'll probably get back to real estate, and he has a great home buying course. Oh, yeah. What's up, Mike? How you doing? Newark, Ohio, but Granville schools. Looking to sell, but no point with prices down, waiting to build on land in Granville. Okay. I'd rather refi and rent to build than sell at a loss. Yeah, understood. So I will look at, yeah, I'll go ahead and look at that data. Are you in Park Trails? I assume that's where you are. And actually, Mike, if you want, because I know that area really well, if you want to email me, I can give you a hyper local to that subdivision analysis because I have the MLS for Central Ohio and I live in Granville. So I know that area really well. If you want to email me, I'll put my email in the chat here and you can shoot me a note and then I can prepare a actual analysis for you. There you go. I put my email in the chat because I can't separate the school districts with this data. If I do 43055 Newark, Ohio, you're going to see mostly it's just Newark, right? So it's not going to help. But on the MLS, I can dial it in, and I'm happy to do that for you. I'm assuming you're in Park Trails though. So let me look at this one. Trump wants to ban corporate buying. Democrat media is already opposing it. Why are they opposing it? Isn't that what everybody wanted? That's all I hear, right? Got to ban institutional investors. I am going to talk about that. I have a article to share. Let's look at this. When prices doubled, the market flooded and sold, and it hasn't reset, thus blocking many out of the market. When the prices doubled, the market flooded and sold, and it hasn't reset, thus, yeah, you're right. Yeah, the market's frozen. What's up, Lisa? Hey, if you're looking for a good agent in Kingman, Arizona, Lisa's your person. She's on here all the time, seems to be very knowledgeable. And she says there's great deals to be had in Kingman and Lake Havasu. Oh, you're welcome, no PSI. Thank you for the support. Really, it means a lot. Skatook, Oklahoma. Boy, these names today, man. Did I say that right? Skatook, Oklahoma. Yeah, I'll check that one out. Some really cool areas we're looking at. How about 95129 or Bay Area? Yeah, definitely the Bay Area. Travis and Mitch are awesome. Yeah, they do a really good job. I'm trying to line up a video with them, like either on my channel or their channel, depending on what they want to do. Haven't been able to do it. So if you happen to be on their live stream or you comment, goose them and tell them to jump on the Housing Nerd. You're welcome. Oh yeah, Travis's channel's great. I got some more requests here. 60613. Yep, I'll do that one. 29928. Yeah. Tom Sullivan. Do that one. Oh, you're welcome, Lisa. All right, let's do these requests. I did Batman. Did I do Yvonne? I don't think I did. 4301 or 43081. Let's do that. 43081. Where is that? 43081. It's in Columbus somewhere. Huh. Oh, it's just north of it's like the Johnstown area, I guess. All right. 43081 prices up 2.1%. That's kind of right in the Intel zone, the Intel plant zone. Since 2022, home prices in that zip code up 12%. So home prices going up still in that market. Um, let's look at the single family value. What do we got? $391,000 all time high. No surprise there. No surprise at all. Active inventory up 24% in 43081. So you're adding more homes versus last year. Since 2019, you're actually up 23%. So you've got more homes in 2019. That's rare, very rare in Ohio. Don't see that a lot. Mostly it's down versus 2019. Active inventory count, how are we doing? 117 homes on the market. That is a decade high. That's a decade high. Wow, a lot more inventory there. 43081. Oh, it's Westerville. Wow. You've got a lot more homes in Westerville than you've had in a long time. I mean, 117 this year, last year you had 94, so it's not like it's a flood of inventory, but comparatively it is. I mean, during COVID, you had 38 homes, and you haven't had more homes than this for sale in the last decade. So I'm guessing you're seeing a lot more on the market. And Westerville traditionally has been a tough market to buy in, so that's good news for buyers. Probably returning to more of a normal market overall. Yeah, I looked at the single family value. That's still up, hasn't come down really. We looked at the active inventory. Let me look at median days on market. How long are homes sitting? Down 6 days. So they are selling, homes are selling in about 38 days. Last year, 44 days. It could just be for Westerville that you finally have enough homes that people are actually purchasing them. That's why days on market maybe is down, right? You got a bigger selection, so buyers are like, finally, some inventory to buy. I don't think there's a lot of new construction there, is there? Let's look at price reduction share. What do we got? Yeah, 24% of all homes have had a price cut. So that's good, a good amount, right? Ohio overall is at 21%. And this is a lot higher than you've seen traditionally. Look, like go back in time, you only had like 16, 15%, 15%, 18% of all sellers cut their price. During COVID, it was 4%. So only 4% of people were cutting their price. But now 24%. So a lot more price cuts, probably people who have completely overpriced their homes. Seeing that all over Ohio, even in Granville here, seeing it constantly. People price a home and you're like, man, that is way overpriced. And then it just sits. There's some homes in Granville that have sat for, I mean, they're collecting dust. And homes in Newark too, that are like that. It's tough. You have to list a home correctly now. And maybe even somewhat compelling, right? Right under where you would normally list it to get some movement. So even in the good markets, it can be a little challenging to sell. All right, that's 43081. What's next? And by the way, if you're in central Ohio at all, like Franklin, Delaware, Licking, Muskingum, Knox County, Union County, all the surrounding counties to Columbus, if you're in that area and you need specific help buying or selling, call me, email me, however you got to do it, smoke signals, and I can help you because I live in this market and I cover it. All right, what's next? Skatook, Oklahoma, 74070. 74070. Oklahoma. Now, why don't you zoom in? Oh, there we go. All right, got it. And this, you just want to look at geography wise. Okay. Prices up 4%, up 4% year over year, but not even close to what you were seeing during COVID, where prices were climbing 20% year over year. Again, not sustainable at all. And it wasn't because it stopped. The typical value of a single family house is 271,000. That is an all-time high. So you have an all-time high price there in Oklahoma. Active inventory is up 19% year over year. So you have 19% more homes than last year. And compared to 2019, you've got still have a deficit, 16% fewer homes than 2019. If I look at the inventory count, you got 51 homes on the market right now. During COVID, you had 21 homes. Back before COVID, like in 2016, you had 70 some homes on the market. So you look at that and think, all right, we're approaching a better inventory level, but it's probably not enough to make prices, to have any type of, obviously price decline. But as we return to that normal level of inventory, you probably won't see much price decline. It'll be like that slow grind sideways, like you're seeing, where it's 2-3% every year home prices are going up versus 15-20%. But if you saw pretend we had 300 homes on the market where you are, well, then you would probably see a large price decline. It's inventory, folks, supply and demand. That's all it is. It's really all it is. Price reduction share. Yeah, 23% of people are cutting their asking price. Last year it was 25%. So you can easily see that during COVID, it definitely had an elevated you had elevated prices because people weren't cutting their price. There wasn't a lot of inventory. Then that inventory has grown. People have started to cut their price. A lot of sellers still think it's 2021, right? Oh, my neighbor sold in 2021 for 500 grand. So I'm going to list mine at 525. And everybody thinks their house is better than their neighbors. Everybody. That's just how people are. They're proud of their house. Point of all that is doesn't seem like you're headed for a crash. And I wouldn't say you're headed for an explosion of prices either. Probably just barely growth, maybe even slightly down, as long as the inventory trend continues that you have. What's kind of interesting is if you look at kind of the overall market there in Oklahoma, and this is by zip code, there are areas where prices are down a lot. Like, look at this. The zip code right next to you, 74035. Prices are down 12% year over year. And then up here, there's a lot of red. Well, this zip code, 73749, down 30%. But the trick is, and the trap is, look at this. State, they say you're up 1.7. So statewide up 1.7, but you go into that zip code level and you can see a lot of the pain, right? A lot of red through here. Now there's blue too, right? Right next to you, there's a zip code 74061, up 8%. So very, very hyper local, even though the state is up 1.7%. And then if you look at states that are down 10%, you see the same thing where some zip codes are actually up. All right, hopefully that helped. What's next? 95129. You guys got some good ones in here. 95129. California. Where is this in California? Where are you? You're in the Bay Area. We know that. So is that's like San Jose? 95129. Find it again. Yeah, it could be San Jose area. That's what it looks like. Price is up 2.5% year over year. Wow. So home price is still growing there. A lot of the Bay Area I thought was having problems, but that area, the market's still up. Since 2022, you're actually up 10%. Haven't seen that in many markets of California. So you're actually up in home prices since 2022. How about that? And what's the typical value? How's that doing? Homes are so expensive in California. It makes more Ohio just look like peanuts. Your typical value there, it looks to be an all-time high price, is $2,653,000. So I don't see prices crashing there like 653, 6. Yeah, you have an all-time high record price there right now. Goodness, goodness, goodness. Active inventory, how's that doing? You're down 18% versus last year. Active inventory versus 2019, you're actually down 30% since before the pandemic. You have no inventory growth there. Like, what has happened? I mean, we only got 13 homes on the market. Last year, you had 16. Look at this during COVID, you had 3. So I guess you've added inventory, but I don't see any change. Like, it seems like you're going to continue to go up in prices. Like, it doesn't, you just look at the trajectory of the price growth, certainly the active inventory. There's no explosion of homes on the market. 0% of sellers have cut their asking price. And some months, nobody cut their asking price. So that's, I obviously expect that when you look at the prices and the fact that they haven't crashed. 49 days is how long homes are taking to sell. Last year was 35, but with just 13 or so homes, it's, a couple homes are going to make a huge difference in the median days on market. Oh, talk about yeah, a complete bizarro universe compared to the Ohio prices. 2 million, $2.5 million. Thanks for that. Yeah, you know what? While we're there, let's just zoom out and take a look at the other areas in near San Fran and Oakland and San Jose. Like San Jose is like down here, right? So I'm trying to remember what that is. I used to live in California, but I can't remember exactly what's down there. But if we look at like San Francisco, which is like through here, yeah, prices are basically down or flat. And then if you go to Oakland, I'm pretty sure this is the Oakland area right through here because there's the Bay Bridge. It's like prices down 8% in Oakland, down 7%, down 10%. I mean, the whole Oakland, is that Sausalitos market is just wrecked with prices. They're definitely going down. But where you are, prices don't look like they're going down. You have an all-time high record price. All right, what's next? 60613. Where are we going now? Oh, going to Illinois, huh? Come on. This is supposed to zoom in, but it's not. Metro. Bear with me. Hmm. Hmm. This is frustrating. Why does it not do that? Why does it not help me? 60613. I have to pick through this and see if I can find it. It's supposed to zoom into the zip code, but it's not right now. It's broken or something. 613. Is it 3-1 or 1-3? 1-3. Hmm. Where is this? I see 3-1. 606. Is that right? 606, yeah. 60613. Where are we? Hmm. Sorry, guys. Technical error here. 60613. What's up? Yeah, I don't know why it's not cooperating with me. I'm going to look at this. It's in Chicago. Okay. But I wanted to get more specific for you. Chicago's right, it's probably right in here. I found it. Okay. Did I 60613? Now it's personal. Gotta find it. 60613. 15. Hmm, hmm. 12. 14. Goodness. Goodness, Jay. This is not fun. All right. Well, I apologize. My data source is not cooperating with me. So we're just gonna do Chicago. See, it zoomed in for my metro there. Apologies for that delay. Let's see if you Chris C. Sorry, Chris C. Try my best here. Let me try one more time. Let me try to load Resi Club again. Now it's working. No, it's not. Some reason it doesn't like Chicago. I can't explain why. All right, Chicago. Let's look at it. 3.8% in home price growth. So price is still going up in Chicago. A lot of people can't believe that. But that's the truth. They are going up. Since 2022, what's happened with prices? Up 13% in 2022, since 2022. So still growing, right? You've got prices are not falling as they are in some areas versus 2022. And you're at an all-time high record price for Chicago. All-time high record price, the Chicago area, which I know I couldn't get to that zip code. I apologize. $354,000. Yeah, all-time high record price. And inventory there is goofy, down 1.5% year over year. You actually have fewer homes on the market than you did last year. What? Since 2019, look at this, folks, down 55%. Down 55%. They have 55% fewer homes right now versus last year. So when you hear people say, like, hey, there's tons of houses on the market or there's inventory everywhere. No, not true. We've looked at a lot of markets today where inventory is down, and it's down a lot in Chicago. This is going to get ugly here. Look at this active inventory, 16,269, which seems like a lot of homes. But man, you go back historically, look at this rate. Before COVID, you had 36,000 properties for sale. 36,000. And now 16,000. And it really hasn't improved much in the last few years. It's actually gone down since 2022, the number of homes for sale. What is going on in Chicago? Nothing. Nothing on the market. Goodness, goodness, goodness. All right. So that's Chicago. And I apologize about that zip code thing. I don't know what's going on with it. I have to ask Lance at Resi Club about it. What's next? 29928. 29928. And I'm probably gonna have the same problem. Nope. This one worked. I don't know what to tell you, Chris, in Chicago. Oh, this is South Carolina, huh? Yeah, South Carolina. 29926. 29928 is what I want, right below. All right. Prices up 1.2%. That's it. Not a lot of growth. You haven't had a lot of growth all the way going back to 2023. I mean, look how severe this, if I can blow this up at all. I can a little bit. Yeah. Look at how severe this price growth was during COVID. I mean, you're up 36% in some months year over year. It means if a home was like 100 grand one year, to make math easy, the next year was 136 grand, basically, right? Quick math. So then it dropped. I mean, look at how the price growth just stopped right in 2022. Again, that's when a lot of people listed their house on the market, right when interest rates went up. So now let me look since the peak or since 2022, when a lot of markets peaked, you're actually up 5%. So in Chicago, you're up like 13%, if I remember right, since 2022. In this area of South Carolina, up just 5% since 2022. Now, let's look at typical single family value. Where are you? Wow, it's an expensive area. $1.2 million for houses there. That's the typical value. It is not, is it? It looks like it is an all time high. So you have an all time high record price there in South Carolina. 1 million, nearly $1,200,000. How about inventory? What's that done? You're up 20% year over year, number of homes for sale versus last year, but you're still down 35% versus pre COVID. Active inventory count, you got a good number of homes, 515 homes on the market now. A lot better than COVID. We only had 178 homes back during COVID. Only 178. That's not a lot. Historically, though, if we go all the way back to 2018 or 2016, rather, you had nearly 1,000 homes on the market. So you still have half the inventory versus way before, versus before COVID. And I mean, if you need any evidence that what COVID did to stuff, look at this: 787 homes right before COVID was announced. Right, it was announced like early 2020. So inventory was just kind of chugging along. In fact, you had the same number of homes in 2019 that you had in 2018. But then COVID hit, literally like hit in March, February, whatever, May, after May of 2019. I'm sorry, May of 2020, the inventory level just vanished for you. You've lost 450 homes approximately in 1 year. Over half your inventory gone. And I'm guessing if I look at prices during that period of time, prices. Yeah, look at this. All that, COVID hit, inventory, people started buying inventory, and prices just went straight up. In 1 year, you went from $667,000 to $910,000. You have to be very careful if you're looking at real estate data or listening to folks and they don't talk about supply and demand and honest with themselves, honest with you as the viewer. Like, that's what happens with inventory and prices. I mean, you can see prices really, I mean, they were going up obviously through 2015, 2016, 2017. They were going up, right? Normal appreciation. But then to go from 667 to 910, it's like, what? And then from 910 to 1,092,000. So now you're at an all-time high, basically $1.2 million. Unbelievable. But great demonstration of what happens during an explosion of inventory or depletion of inventory. Supply is very inelastic, very hard to ramp up supply. Demand can get the switch turned on immediately, which we saw during COVID. Hope that helped. Oh, there's some great markets to look at today. We got some more. I got some more. Evans, Georgia. Oh, you close tomorrow. Well, you've already made your decision. What do you need me for? 30809. I'm just kidding. 30809. What do we got? All right, prices up just 1.5%. So they've been just chugging along at a normal rate over the past few years. Nothing really crazy up or down. The typical value, $398,000. That's an all-time high. So I don't know if you're buying or selling, but either way, it looks like prices continue to move up. They haven't crashed. They're actually now at an all-time high. Inventory, you're up 78% year over year. Wow, a lot more inventory than last year versus 2019, only up 5%. Inventory count, 244 homes on the market right now, better than 91 you had during COVID. So you are building inventory. You can see that trend upwards, but it's not obviously um, you haven't exploded in inventory, although year over year you did because you went from 244 to 130. You went from 137 to 244. So you've added a lot of homes on the market in the last year. Probably more choices. I'm curious if you're buying, if that's what you're seeing, or if you're selling, were you able to sell it quick? I'd love to know. Inquiry minds want to know. Median days on market. How long are homes sitting? 72 days. Last year was 72 days. Year before that was 69 days. So homes are sitting about as long as they did last year, obviously sitting longer than they did during COVID, which was 33 days. So yeah, let us know what you're up to there. And good luck. Hopefully everything goes okay in the closing. I'm sure it will. All right. Keep me conscious. Meridian, Idaho, another Idaho area, 83642. Okay. 83642. I've got time. 42. Oh, and let me know in the comments now is probably the good time. Do you want me to review this Trump thing or not? If you don't want me to, and you're like, I don't care, fine. I won't waste my time. But if you want me to review this article I have, and I'd like to hear your take on it, your take as a viewer, great. And then I can end with my take. But if you want me to review the Trump institutional investor tweet, I'm happy to. And I'll probably do maybe 2 more zip codes after this. 83642. You are barely up, just 0.9% flat for home price growth. Since 2022, how have you done? Down 10%. Down 10%. So if you bought, 2022, 2023, 2024, probably haven't gained anything on your home value or much. But again, this is like, averages for that zip code. $523,000 is the typical home value. You peaked at like 540. You peaked at 540. So you're off 20 grand or so since the peak. Active inventory year over year up 45%. Active inventory versus 2019 still down 19%. So even through all that inventory growth, you still haven't hit pre-pandemic levels of inventory. 262 homes right now. Last year you had 180. So good, added more inventory. But look at this. In 2022, you had 366 homes. You've actually lost inventory over the last couple of years, but home prices don't look like they've moved much. Now they're just sideways, it looks like, as far as home prices. So if you continue to add more inventory, you may end up with a lower home price growth trajectory. But I wouldn't look for prices to explode. price reduction share, 14%. Not a lot. It's only 14% of all people have cut their asking price on their house. Doesn't seem like they're desperate. And that is okay. Is that near Boise? Is that where that is? 83642. Meridian, Idaho. Meridian, Idaho is where that is. Yeah, that market was supposed to completely fall apart and crash with prices. I know I saw like Travis and Melody right out there saying, "Hey, the world's going to end out here." And okay, and now I'm looking at the data going, prices kind of haven't crashed, but anything's possible. Just the data's not showing a price price collapse there by any means. Oh, I got two more in me here. Sold my home in 19. Yeah, yeah, that happens. I mean, I did that. Not my personal house, but I had a rental. If you know the Ohio area, I had one in New Albany of all places. Before they announced Intel, I sold it. I sold it like 3 months before they announced Intel, and made a good, did well on it from a selling standpoint. But man, I wish I had that house still. I wouldn't have sold it. I'd have hung on to it. It'd be like a cash flowing machine. But can't change the past. Chattanooga. I got a Chattanooga request. I got a Kansas City request. 64157. Yeah, I'll do that one. 64157. I'll make this my last one. 64157. Prices up just 0.4%. See, a lot of these markets are just flat. You can kind of see it, right? I think we've seen that today. A lot of markets not, we haven't seen any 10%, maybe a couple that were higher, like 8% or so, but nothing that's like 15% certainly. So at least prices are somewhat moderating. It's good to see that. You have some type of normalcy, right? As we continue on for buyers and sellers. So price is barely moving there. Let's look at single family value. $417,000. Is that an all-time high? 417,225. Basically, pretty close to it. Effectively, you're at an all-time high still, record price in Kansas City, right? Is that where that is? Yeah, Kansas City, Missouri. Now, let's do the inventory. Inventory of homes for sale. What do we got? Active inventory year over year. Down 25%. You actually have fewer homes on the market than last year. How's that possible? But it is. Active inventory versus 2019, you're down 34%. So still fewer homes than you had before the pandemic. That's typical, what we're seeing overall. You had 53 homes during COVID. I'm sorry, right before COVID, you had about 100 homes on the market. Then it dropped to 53 during COVID, all the way down to 42 homes. Now you've got 65. So you are gaining homes, but it's probably not enough to cause any type of price collapse. But at least you are adding inventory. Although you are down year over year, it hasn't, you're not down to 40 levels yet. So I would just say, hey, need more homes. Not that you can do anything about that, but that's what is causing prices to not, to still stay sticky. Median days on market, 63 days. Got it. That is a little higher than last year. So homes are sitting just a little longer. Historically, you were at 73 days, 70 days, 76 days. So it's still selling. Homes are still selling quicker than they were before COVID. All right. That was that one. San Jose. All right. So any other ones I missed, jump on the next live and I will get to them. I did a lot today. Hey, Mike. Park Ridge. Yeah. So yeah, again, just email me and I can get you that specific hyper local data. Include your address in there if you can, and I'll do an analysis. Obviously, it's free, and then I'll send it over to you. And then if you want me to come out and take a look at the house, that'll help me dial it in even more. And by the way, keeping a rental or keeping a house, depending on if it cash flows or not a bad idea at all, especially in an area like Granville. Uh, we're buying for 305,000 in Evans, Georgia. The home we bought was originally listed at 348 and we got seller to pay closing. Wow. Good for you. Great. See, that's the type of I think there's a lot of deals out there like that right now. If you're strategic and you hunt and you're patient, I think you can definitely find some opportunities. All right. Oh, the groove theory. What's up? All right, let's look at this. I'll end with this part. And again, I'd love to hear your take on this. Like, if you're listening to this on the stream or afterwards, I'd love to understand what you think about this Trump ban on institutional investors. So this article it will be linked below once I'm done with the stream, and it is from Resi Club, and he points out some things here that I think we should consider. So this article is 5 ways it could affect the housing market. Trump's ban or effort to ban institutional buyers. Lance at Resi Club outlined 5 ways it could affect the housing market. This stat here is probably one of the biggest unknown stats in the US. I've probably had at least 2 dozen people text me or email me. Even saw somebody at the gym today that asked about it. What I thought about this ban on institutional investors. And what most people don't know is that large investors, those owning at least 100 single family homes, not 1,000, just 100, own only about 1% of the total US single family housing stock. But in certain areas, there's a lot more single family, there's a lot more institutional buying than other areas. And we'll see that in the article. But the point of that is they only own 1%. And those aren't even institutional investors. I mean, I know individuals who are just normal people that own 100 single family rentals. So they're not even counted in the institutional investors. So if you take those out, it could be like 0.5%. So if those people can't buy homes, 0.5%, then is that going to really help? I don't know. I'll let you answer that question. Look at that picture. That's hilarious. So Lance says, number one way it could affect the housing market. The effects of institutional single family home buying ban would vary sharply by region. So this map shows us where large investors, these aren't just institutional. Again, these are folks that own over 100 single family homes. The dark areas are where they own the most homes. So yeah, in these markets, it could help a lot with inventory, or a lot more. Not a lot, but it helped more than it would in areas where they don't own any single family homes. So look at the map and tell me what stands out to you, if anything stands out. One of the things I see is in the Midwest, I like through Ohio, Illinois, right, Indiana. There's some large investor buying, especially in Columbus. So if institutional investors can't buy anymore in Columbus, yeah, it'll free up some inventory for smaller investors like me, and certainly home buyers. But I don't like single family homes as rentals. That's not my jam. But if I did, that would be easier to compete because the institutional guys are gone. But look at the Northeast, none. Look at the West, not a lot. Even down through like, the mountain states, not a lot. And the Pacific Northwest, not a lot at all. So meaning that ban would have no effect on those markets really, or minimal effect. Atlanta seems to have the most. And then there's areas in Florida that have a lot of institutional buyers. But if let me just clear this comment. But then he says, um, this is the next kind of thing that effect of this ban potentially. A forced institutional sell-off could temporarily put additional downward pressure on home prices in certain Sunbelt neighborhoods that are already experiencing corrections. So this map is where home prices are falling and where they're going up. So blue is going up, red is falling. And yeah, like in Atlanta and in Florida, maybe even in Phoenix and in Texas, where there's a lot more inventory already, an institutional ban on buying more single family homes could certainly help those markets. But, and this is a big but, in Trump's post, he said he wants to ban large institutional investors from buying more single family homes. That word more could imply that the proposal would not include a forced institutional sell off, making the scenario above less likely. Meaning, if they're not forced to sell what they already have, and they're only banned from buying future homes, well, right now, according to Melody Wright, they're not buying much. So, does that really fix anything? I'm not sure. Number three, with institutional buying already well below pandemic housing boom levels, there's less demand left that can be squeezed out. So you can see that their purchases of from institutional buyers went up significantly during COVID, right? But then it fell dramatically. So Resi Club's confirming what Melody Wright says, which is institutional investors aren't buying that much right now. So if they're banned from buying, does that really help us? Maybe not. A full-blown institutional ban, this is number 4, including a build-to-rent ban, could negatively impact home building. This is something nobody is going to talk about in mainstream media. You're not going to hear any of the crash bros talk about this part. They just won't, because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that if builders all of a sudden can't sell to an institutional buyer, they're going to build less homes. That could happen. And that would hurt supply in the future. We already know home builders are dialing it back when it comes to the number of homes they're buying or they're building. The housing starts are slowing. So in the future, you could have a big supply problem, potentially, right? That's what Lance is saying. One of the biggest questions right now is whether Trump's proposed institutional ban would apply to institutional scatter site purchases, i.e., buying existing homes on the market, or also to build to rent development, building communities and homes specifically for rent. If policymakers were to also restrict institutional build to rent development, it could have a noticeable negative impact on overall home building later in the decade in 2027, 2028, and 2029. And if you've been out trying to find a home lately in any area, a lot of the areas we looked at today, there aren't a lot of choices out there. So less supply is not what we need. Could have a opposite effect of what people I think want. Number 5, most institutionally owned homes are currently occupied, and most of their tenants can't afford to buy right now. SFR landlords note that if Congress were to force institutions to sell off their housing stock, it could potentially displace thousands of current tenants who would need to find somewhere else to live. That's something nobody else is talking about either, probably. But here's the biggest uh, unknown, or the biggest, the most overlooked stat that people ignore, don't want to believe, or just pretty much don't know about. This is it, folks. When somebody asks you what you think of this ban, you could probably point to this. Mom and pop landlords are by far the largest owner of single family rentals, according to John Burns Research and Consulting. 76.6%. 76.6% of all single family rentals are owned by landlords who hold between 1 and 9 properties. So the majority of these rentals out there are owned by people like you and people like me, just normal people. Like Travis at Real Estate Mindset is one of these landlords. He owns a rental property. And according to him, what he said on his channel, he cash flows every month and has a ridiculously low mortgage rate. So he's one of the single family rental landlords out there. He's a mom and pop landlord, and they own the majority of the rentals out there, not institutional buyers. Look how many institutional buyers have. According to John Burns, those with 1,000 or more properties, when it comes to single family rentals only, own 3.4%. Lately, more institutional landlords are net selling than net buying. So that tells me that the ban may not help much unless they have to sell all their existing inventory. Would that happen? I don't know. I'm not holding my breath. But if it does happen, I'm not sure it'll be the real estate nirvana many are expecting. I mean, look at some of these portfolios these investors own. Invitation Homes owns 87,000 single family houses. Progress Residential owns 84,000. Invitation Homes, by the way, is partly owned by BlackRock. I'm sorry, Blackstone. So you could see some of these companies own 80,000, 50,000, 40,000, 30,000 homes, a lot of homes. But now they're they're selling more than they're buying for the most part. So that ban may not really do much. Anyway, that's what's going on, I think, with this ban. I think it sounds good for the midterms. It also sounds good for headlines. It makes a lot of people think, look, Trump's doing something to help affordability. There's been a lot of people on my channel that say we need to get rid of institutional buying and everything will be fine. Well, if that happens, we're going to find out. Will it all be fine? Probably not. Anyway, that's what's going on. All right. See if there's any other questions. No, no other questions. All right, y'all. I had a great time today interacting, learned a lot about these markets, looked at some markets we'd never looked at before. And do me a favor, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Housing Nerd. Subscribe to the Housing Nerd. If you're in Ohio, check out my Ohio channel. And I am working on a home buying course that I'll launch here in a month or so, hopefully. It takes a lot of work, but I am doing that. So be on the lookout for that. And we will do this again next week. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. I'm the Housing Nerd, and I am out. OUT out.